Thomas Müller arrives in Vancouver. Alex, you were all over it this week, from standing in the rain at training to the press conference and the German food. I think you had a pretzel on German television. And of course, the debut where he scores a wonder goal that didn't count. But Alex, take us through the week and Thomas Müller.
Müller Mania is real, guys. It's real. And it was quite something to see really culminate with the game on Sunday. Fittingly, in typical Vancouver sports fashion, the fans who came were denied of a fitting ending because those such things don't really seem to exist in this city most of the time. But hey, maybe Muller, with all he's won, he can cancel that out. I guess that's the part of the bet the Whitecaps are winning. Surely a serial winner can help change some of that. But it was just special to see the hype, just see how many people were there early, to walk around the city and just see Whitecaps jerseys everywhere, Muller jerseys everywhere, Germany, all these sorts of things. Like, you felt a buzz. And to think that buzz was there, and that buzz has been there. I'm not going to pretend like I've only seen this for the first time. Like, I felt it last year in the playoffs when they had 30,000 plus fans, and I felt it at other moments. But for it to be a random weekend in August, in the summer, where sometimes the Whitecaps can get forgotten in that late August slog, it just made me think, like, wow, what a week. But it started with the hype around Muller's arrival, all these people going to the airport, not to welcome an opposing star, but to welcome one of their own. The hype around the press conference and the energy in that room, the hype at training where, the next day over 200 fans came to watch Muller train from the supporters group. I thought that was a great touch. Like, it's just blown my mind how big of a scale this has been. Because we knew that on the field, this is a big deal. Muller's won it all. But just seeing the how big it's been off the field. Like, I've learned a lot over the last week. Like, did you know Thomas Müller is the third biggest footballer in terms of popularity in China behind Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi? No. But that's a thing. And now there's, been a heightened interest from Chinese fans, which, there's a lot of a huge Chinese population in Vancouver. So that's been super interesting to see the Whitecaps maybe tap into that market that they haven't successfully done previously. Like, a lot of little things. It just makes you realize how big this has been off the field.
Who would have thought that Thomas Müller makes the Vancouver Whitecaps relevant in Richmond? I was not expecting that. That's awesome, man. It's cool. It's really cool to see. Obviously, I'm out here in Vancouver right now, and you guys know that I hold Vancouver very dearly in general. It's a unique place, right? I was thinking about the merchandise release that MLS did on Wednesday with the Ted Lasso collaboration. And if you go through the T-shirts there, the Believe T-shirts, you'll notice that there is no CF Montreal. And what is often the case with any MLS marketing is there is no CF Montreal. Whether it's a language thing or whether they're just out of sight, out of mind, that market gets forgotten. Vancouver is a major North American city, but Toronto is the only Canadian city really that gets a mention. And there are times when maybe Montreal is more considered because it's unique, or Americans refer to it as, a taste of Europe, but it's a North American city. I feel as though Vancouver is a forgotten gem a lot, and underrated, grossly underrated. And Thomas Müller makes Vancouver mainstream. And I think what you're experiencing and what you're describing from my personal experience is he's made the Whitecaps mainstream in Vancouver. And that has been difficult in the past, despite famous investment, despite winning teams, despite a beautiful pitch, albeit, okay, maybe not the turf, but like it is a beautiful stadia to go and watch soccer. And they've been arguably Canada's best Major League Soccer team to watch for their entire existence. But now I do feel as though the city will really bite into it. And we've had the discussion about this is such a interesting city because it's so split with, like, there's way more things to do than sit inside any arena or stadium. So you have to be good and you have to be appealing to get butts and seats. And this has done that. This will get more butts and seats. This will keep the attention. This will keep the reads. This will keep the listens. This will keep people interested in the Vancouver Whitecaps. And that's not the only reason that they did it, but it was important that they do that. And I think you're going to see some serious, long-term effects from this, because I do believe that this hype train will lead to a stadium deal in addition to happening at the time that the World Cup is here. And we'll be talking about as well, remember that time the Whitecaps almost moved, but they've established an incredible history here in whatever that time window is.
Just a quick note. I just want to shout out to how Muller how present he's been in all this. Because Brendan, you talk about the attention. Since he's come in, he's done a press conference. He spoke to media in a scrum after his first training. He did the post-game presser as well against the Whitecaps. He's been vlogging every day he's been in Vancouver to his big YouTube following. Every day he's got at least 10 stories and 3 posts for his 15 million followers on Instagram. We laugh, but small details like that too helps keep the momentum with the Muller thing. Like, I think that's super important because we've talked about how some stars come to MLS and then they just disappear. Like, essentially what's going on, other than the 90 minutes you see them on the Saturdays and sometimes Wednesdays, they may as well not exist for all that matters. It has been really interesting to see Thomas Müller come and also embrace a bit of the responsibility that comes with being a star in Vancouver. And I think that's where the Whitecaps may have won the most, that not only are they getting, a player with so much history and et cetera, but they're getting a guy that is coming and immediately elevating them and going up above and beyond. Like he took he walked in front of his first game. He made that run in front of the fans in front of the stadium to sign autograph. Like, he's just doing the most right now in a good way. And I think that's also super important.
I think it was critical that the Whitecaps made this signing at this point as well, and a signing that engages the public in the same way that Thomas Müller has been doing, and not what Lionel Messi has done, what Schweinsteiger did, even though he was a little bit more front-facing. But when you think of when the Whitecaps have been top of mind in Vancouver this year, it's happened 3 times. They played Miami, they were in the final, and then the Thomas Müller thing. Like, there's been lots of times where the Whitecaps fall back into the Vancouver sporting conversation. Alex, you mentioned the August slog as well, that oftentimes the Whitecaps just, are out of sight, out of mind, especially when, they're middling mid-table as they have for a lot of their MLS existence. But yes, it's August, but they're still leading, local talk shows. They're leading local radio. They're leading local podcasts. They're leading national stuff as well because of the Thomas Müller effect and because of the success they've had. Now, that success has worn off a little bit. I think they have 4 wins in their last 10, and they'll have to figure that out, especially with some of the additions that we'll touch on in a moment. But they've stayed incredibly relevant, and they've got this real chance to create this whole new generation of Whitecaps and soccer fans that see the Whitecaps as, a premier entertainment and sporting option in Vancouver, alongside a Canucks team that seems to, if they taste a little bit of success, they just, flounder that the next year.
Well, I think what's really interesting too, you mentioned the success, man, if you're the Whitecaps, and first off, like, again, very interesting to see the buzz where they've been not opening the upper bowl, but they sold out the lower bowl for his first game. Sounds like they're going to keep selling out the lower bowl, at least maybe open up one of the games for more. But just how imagine how important it would be if they find a way to finish top 2 in the West, maybe even first. They're still 6 points behind with the game in hand, which isn't impossible to make up in MLS. How important would it be to win the first round of MLS playoffs and win 1 or 2 more rounds? That's 4 home dates playoffs where you could potentially fill the entire stadium. Like, how important would that be in October, November, right when Canucks are coming back, to basically be punching with that sort of on-field success also translating to some of that hype. I think that's also shows why these next 6 weeks are so crucial, to finish as high up at the table as you can, to get all these pieces in place, because there's a real potential to really do something special in terms of building even more buzz in the playoffs.
So where's the parade, Alex? They only need 1 more game after that. Down Granville, or are we going down Robson? I think Robson's like labeled Whitecaps way. Anyways, we won't touch on the parade planning yet for Vancouver, but they have been doing a lot to build that roster with hopes of a parade later this fall, I guess after December 6th when MLS Cup is. But they've gone pretty well all in. They're close to signing defender Sebastian Schonlo from HSV, and as well as Jodar Poupe from Dender, according to Manuel Veth. And, Dender, a name that neither of us had heard of for forever. Now we're talking about them with Luc de Fougeroles and now Poupe as well. But, Brendan, what does it mean for the Whitecaps to be really going all in on this season?
Yeah, this is it, right? This is their moment. I think that we all felt as though coming into this season that they did have the pieces to take a leap. Despite the uncertainty, despite how beloved Vanni Sartini was by a lot of people, including that dressing room, it truly felt like. And they've taken, a massive leap here, and they've recognized that this is their opportunity to win, something that Alex has been saying, for a year and a half then since we started working together doing NFP. And it's been awesome to witness. And it's also been great to see some of the moves that Axel Schuster has made, when in the past I think he was criticized for not recognizing the moment, where to strengthen, what to do. And now it kind of seems like with Jesper Sorensen, Axel can't really do any wrong. So I'm excited to see what Kenji Cabrera can bring, and these other two guys as well. Like they're assembling a team to have a long MLS Cup run here. And to Alex's point about selling out, one of the flaws with this calendar that MLS has is that the CONCACAF Champions League is at the beginning of the season, and how incredible it would be if they were in that run now. Though with the attention that they've built, with the hype that they've built in Vancouver, if the Whitecaps were playing Pumas and Tigres and Messi's Miami now, I mean, we'd be talking about crowds outside. You'd be talking about a Whitecap whiteout outside, or whatever you want to call it, outside of BC Place, because it's sold out inside. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the season will bring, and I do think that they're making some very, very smart additions from the sounds of it, and they're building Jesper Sorensen, a team that's very capable of winning.
Yeah, just huge. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say on Sean Lau and Pupa, but what I like is, sounds like Bjorn Inge-Utvic's out the door, per Harjit Johal out here in Vancouver. Great reporting there. Of course, Ranko Veselinovich out for the year. I like the Whitecaps didn't sit on any of those. They're filling holes. They're adding to their roster. Kenji Cabrera comes in as a Pedro Vite replacement. Thomas Müller is a bit of just a bonus, right? He's an extra chip you can throw into the middle, so to speak, as you go all in. Just good to see, because I think there's so many reasons why you can capitalize on this. But what's nice is they're also set up pretty nicely for 2026, which is also going to be a huge year with the World Cup and everything that's going on. These are also moves that it's not like they're going all in, so to speak. Like, there's a bit of cautious there, and at the same time, it makes you excited because Axel Schuster, you mentioned it, every year he's been here, he's found a way to push. He's continued to add the Galds, the Kubases, the Vites. Even in past summers, I referenced it in a recent show, they went and got Richie Laray and Sam Adekugbe to try to go all in 2 years ago, and that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Last year, they tried to bring Stuart Armstrong and go all in. Like, it's impressive that Schuster, even when things don't work out, even when some of his swings fall short, he runs to first. He'll call the out. He'll wait for his turn in the order, and he'll come up and swing again. And there's something to be said about that mentality and how it served the Whitecaps in building this roster.
Alex, quickly, I'm just curious. You said that you didn't think that this was all in. What is all in your definition? Would it be reckless? Would it be them trying to bring Muller's friends? Would it be them lining up Manuel Neuer before the window closes? Like, what is all in by that definition that you think they're not doing?
Until you're completely capped out, because I think they still have some space. They also can bring in a couple U22s, right? That's money where you're bringing in players to help your roster. Technically, they can get very creative with their accounting next year and maybe add, another DP. There's still more room for flexibility. That's why I can't say it's fully all in until they do that. And I think that's why it's good. I think they can see what this team does now and then address for next year. The real big question is Andres Cubas, because he is so close to the TAM threshold. It's ridiculous. The Whitecaps are kind of getting hosed over by that dumb rule where your transfer fee counts. But even by my napkin math, he's so close to the boundary. If you can find a way to get him below that TAM threshold and bring in another DP, that would be a game changer. But we'll see if this is the offseason where finally they're able to do that. But even if they're not, they still have some flexibility.
Yeah, there's that, of course, potential that some of the rules are loosened a little bit in this offseason with some of the, names that Inter Miami are looking at. Like, they want to add a whole bunch of players, and we know that MLS could certainly bend the rules around their aspirations.